Silent watchers. High Admiral Vexterra of the Meridian Concordat stood motionless before the grand observation dome of the Celestial Seeker, her crystalline form refracting starlight in subtle patterns that betrayed her growing unease. After 3 centuries of deep space exploration, she had never encountered anything quite like this. "Confirm readings, second observer," she commanded, her harmonics pitched to convey both authority and skepticism. Below her command podium, second observer Zuralan's tentacles danced across holographic interfaces. "Confirmed, High Admiral. The vessel maintains its course through the void. Energy signatures are—" He paused, his bioluminescent patterns flickering with confusion, inconsistent with any known civilization's patterns. The object of their scrutiny hung against the backdrop of stars, a massive vessel nearly 2 kilometers in length. Its hull was composed of what appeared to be crude metallic alloys arranged in aggressive angular lines. No crystalline matrices, no quantum field generators, not even basic gravitational manipulation systems were visible. By all rights, it shouldn't have been capable of faster-than-light travel. Yet there it was, tearing through space-time with casual disregard for what the Meridian Concordat considered possible. "Composition analysis," Vexterra ordered, her outer membrane rippling with barely contained excitement. First contact situations were delicate affairs, and she had overseen hundreds during her distinguished career. But this was different. "Primary composition appears to be titanium steel alloys," High Admiral Zuralan reported. "But there's something unusual. The molecular structure doesn't match anything in our database. The metal appears to be adapting." A wave of surprised harmonic emissions swept through the bridge crew. Adaptive materials without crystalline intelligence matrices were theoretical, something the Concordat Science Ministry had deemed impossible. Vexterra's attention focused on the detailed scans materializing before her. The vessel's hull was indeed composed of relatively primitive materials, but they were arranged in patterns that seemed to shift and flow at the quantum level. As she watched, a micrometeoroid impacted a section of the hull. Instead of causing damage, the impact point actually strengthened, the molecular structure realigning itself to better absorb future strikes. "Fascinating," she whispered. "Weapons analysis." The ship's combat observer, Krentel, spoke up from his station, his crystalline form glowing a deep red of concern. "High Admiral, we're detecting what appear to be chemical propellant weapons, projectile launchers, and—" he hesitated, "nuclear warheads." Nuclear weapons, primitive devices that species typically develop before discovering proper energy manipulation. Yet something about their configuration made Vexterra's outer membrane tingle with apprehension. The deployment patterns were too precise, the targeting systems too sophisticated. "Life signs. Approximately 2,000 biological signatures," Zuralan reported. "Oxygen breathing. Internal temperature suggests endothermic metabolism. They appear to be operating in shifts." A military vessel, then. Only military crews operated in shifts during deep space travel. Civilian ships use stasis systems, which meant they expected trouble. The bridge fell silent as new readings appeared on their screens. The unknown vessel was generating energy spikes across multiple frequencies, not the chaotic emissions of primitive technology, but precisely controlled bursts that probed the surrounding space like fingers of lightning. "They're scanning us," Krental announced, his crystalline structure pulsing with disbelief. "But that's impossible. We're running full stealth protocols." Vexterra felt her core temperature spike. A species capable of detecting a Meridian Concordat survey vessel in stealth mode, yet still using chemical propellants and metal hulls. Either they discovered a pre-FTL civilization that had gotten impossibly lucky, or "plot and intercept course," she commanded. "Standard first contact protocols." But she added, noting the weapon system's increasingly sophisticated scan patterns, maintain defensive screens at maximum power. As the Celestial Seeker altered course, Vexterra studied the alien vessel with growing fascination. Its design defied conventional wisdom. crude materials utilized in ways her people had never considered, primitive weapons arranged with disturbing sophistication, and technology that somehow bridged the gap between barbaric and brilliant. High Admiral Zerl-On called out, his tentacles writhing with agitation. The vessel is changing course to match our intercept vector. They're hailing us. On all frequencies? Vexterra asked, surprised by the speed of their response. No, High Admiral. They're broadcasting on exactly 3 frequencies, the only 3 that could penetrate our stealth field's weak points. A ripple of unease passed through the bridge crew. These supposed primitives hadn't just detected them. They'd analyzed their stealth technology's vulnerabilities in minutes. Perhaps, Vexterra mused, her outer membrane shifting to a deep blue of contemplation, we should reconsider what we mean by primitive. She straightened her crystalline form, preparing for humanity's first official contact with the Meridian Concordat. Open a channel. Let's meet our new friends. The word friends crystallized in the air with an ironic harmonic. She wasn't entirely sure if that's what they would turn out to be. But one thing was certain. The galaxy was about to become a much more interesting place. The dance of technology. Captain Sarah Chen stood on the bridge of the UES Hyperion, her dark eyes fixed on the tactical display where the crystalline alien vessel glowed like a shard of diamond against the void. After 15 years in the United Earth Navy's Deep Space Division, she thought she was prepared for first contact. She wasn't. "Talk to me, Martinez," she said, her voice carrying the calm authority that had earned her command of humanity's most advanced warship. Lieutenant Anna Martinez's fingers danced across her sensor station, neural implants streaming data directly into her cortical interface. "There's something else, Captain. Their stealth tech is incredible. They're bending light, gravity, and probably half a dozen forces we haven't named yet." But, she grinned, the blue glow of her haptic displays reflecting off her features. They never considered someone might track their stealth field's power signature. Chen nodded. The Hyperion's detection systems weren't designed to see through advanced alien cloaking technology. They were designed to detect any energy usage, no matter how efficient. It was a distinctly human approach. Don't try to peek through the invisibility cloak. Just look for the power source running it. Tactical analysis, Chen asked, turning to her weapons officer. Commander James Wong studied his holographic displays with a frown. "Their defensive systems are like nothing we've seen, Captain. Energy fields so dense our standard sensors can barely penetrate them. But," he paused, his augmented eyes zooming in on specific readings. "No kinetic barriers, no point defense grid, not even basic projectile shielding." They never expected anyone to still be using physical weapons, Chen mused. The alien vessel's defenses were elegant, advanced, and completely unprepared for humanity's approach to warfare. What about their weapons? Energy weapons, primarily. Incredibly sophisticated. Probably capable of cutting through standard shields like they weren't there. Wang's expression turned thoughtful. "But they'd have to hit us first." Chen understood his meaning. The Hyperion's defensive systems weren't based on energy shields or deflector fields. Instead, they relied on predictive AI and smart metal plating that could shift and flow like liquid, making the ship effectively impossible to target. Why try to block an energy beam when you could simply ensure it never hit you? "Dr. Patel," Chen called to her xenotechnology specialist. "What are we looking at?" Dr. Rashmi Patel looked up from her station, her dark features illuminated by streams of data. "They're beautiful, Captain. Their entire ship appears to be grown rather than built. Crystalline structures that respond to thought, technology that manipulates fundamental forces with the ease of breathing. They're probably centuries ahead of us in energy manipulation and quantum engineering." "But," Chen prompted, hearing the reservation in her voice. "But they're stuck in a rut. Every system on their ship follows the same basic principles. Elegant, efficient, and completely predictable. They found one path to the stars and never considered there might be others." The tactical display suddenly flashed with new data. "They're scanning us again, Martins reported. This one's powerful enough to fry unshielded sensors. Let them see what we want them to see, Chen ordered. The Hyperion's electromagnetic warfare suite activated, feeding the alien sensors carefully curated data. Let them see the nuclear weapons, outdated but reliable. Let them see the chemical propulsion systems that could accelerate far faster than they appeared capable of. Let them see a crew complement that seemed impossibly small for a ship this size, thanks to automation they would hopefully underestimate. They're processing the data, Martins reported. Their emissions patterns suggest confusion, maybe concern. Wouldn't you be concerned? Wang asked with a slight smile. They're probably wondering how a species that hasn't mastered their level of energy manipulation made it to the stars. Chen allowed herself a small smile. The Hyperion represented humanity's philosophy of technological development. Don't wait for elegant solutions when you can iterate on primitive ones until they work better than anyone expected. Their hull wasn't powered by exotic particles. It was made of smart metals that had evolved through thousands of generations of testing. Their weapons weren't based on energy fields. They fired hypervelocity projectiles guided by quantum computers that could predict where a target would be microseconds in the future. Captain, Martinez's voice carried a new edge of urgency. They're charging what appears to be a weapon system. Energy readings are significant. Defensive posture only, Chen ordered. But make sure our response systems are ready. And open a channel, all frequencies they might be able to detect. Let's introduce ourselves before anyone does something they'll regret. As her crew worked to establish communication, Chen studied the alien vessel's elegant form. First contact scenarios were delicate enough without such a devastating technological mismatch, just not in the way anyone would have expected. Message broadcast ready, Captain, Martins reported. Chen straightened in her command chair. Humanity's first official contact with an alien civilization would be defined by these next few moments. This is Captain Sarah Chen of the United Earth ship Hyperion. She began, her words being translated into every possible format their computers could devise. We come in peace, seeking friendship and knowledge. She paused, then added with just a hint of steel in her voice. We look forward to showing you how humanity reached the stars. The bridge crew worked in practiced silence as they awaited a response. They had trained for this moment, but training couldn't capture the weight of history pressing down on their shoulders. Think they'll be friendly? Wang asked quietly, his fingers hovering over the tactical controls. Chen watched the alien ship's elegant approach, its crystalline surface refracting starlight in patterns that seemed almost purposeful. That depends, she replied. How do you think they'll react when they realize their advanced technology just ran headfirst into good old-fashioned human ingenuity? The answer to that question would determine the course of human-alien relations for generations to come. Pride before the fall. First Contact Specialist Nexer Vith stood before the Meridian Concordet's High Council, his crystalline form pulsing with agitation as he delivered his assessment. These humans are an anomaly, he declared, projecting sensor data into the chamber's shared consciousness field. They've achieved interstellar travel without following any recognized technological progression path. High Admiral Vexterra watched the Council's reactions ripple through their crystalline forms. After 3 days of observation and attempted communication with the human vessel, the Concordet's experts were still struggling to make sense of what they were seeing. Explain, demanded Council Elder Zixmar, her ancient form throwing rainbow refractions across the chamber. Their ship, the Hyperion, Nexer Vith continued, utilizes what we would consider primitive materials and concepts, yet achieves results that should be impossible. Their hull, for instance, appears to be simple metal alloys, but he projected an image of the human vessel's surface responding to a micrometeor impact. The Council watched in collective disbelief as the metal flowed like liquid, absorbing and redistributing the kinetic energy. They've developed smart materials without using quantum matrices or crystalline computing, Nexer Vith explained. Their entire technological base operates on principles we discarded millennia ago, refined to a degree we never thought possible. Surely they cannot pose a threat. Council member Trelvon interjected, her harmonics carrying tones of dismissal. Their weapons are based on primitive projectiles and nuclear devices. High Admiral Vexterra stepped forward. With respect, Council member, we may be underestimating them. Their ability to detect our stealth systems was likely a fluke. Trelvon interrupted. We cannot allow ourselves to be intimidated by savages who haven't even mastered basic energy manipulation. Aboard the Hyperion, Captain Chen watched the alien vessel's energy emissions with growing concern. They're getting agitated, Martines reported from her sensor station. Their power signatures are becoming erratic. They don't like what they're seeing, Dr. Patel added, studying the xenological data. Their entire civilization appears to be built on the assumption that there's only one correct path of technological evolution. We're an offense to their worldview. Chen nodded grimly. And people tend to react poorly when their fundamental beliefs are challenged. Combat status. All systems ready, Wang reported. Smart metal armor at full responsiveness. Point defense AI at maximum awareness. Kinetic weapons hot but safe. They're powering up weapons, Martinez announced suddenly. Energy readings are off the scale. Back in the Concordat Council chamber, Trelvon had won the argument. We cannot risk allowing such an unpredictable species to roam free, she declared. Their very existence threatens the stability of known space. We must demonstrate the superiority of proper technological development. Council member Vexterra protested. I must object. The Council has spoken, Zixmar announced. The humans will be given one opportunity to submit to Concordat guidance. If they refuse, they will be disabled and detained for their own protection. Aboard the Celestial Seeker, Vexterra watched with growing horror as her ship's weapons charged under Council override. Transmit the ultimatum, she ordered reluctantly. The message that reached the Hyperion was crystal clear. Submit to Concordat authority and accept technological re-education, or be disabled by force. Captain Chen's response was immediate. Like hell, she muttered, then raised her voice. All hands, combat stations, Martinez, initiate the Horizon Protocol. The Celestial Seeker's first shot was a masterpiece of energy weapon technology, a concentrated beam of exotic particles designed to overwhelm any known defensive system. It passed through the space where the Hyperion had been microseconds before, finding nothing but empty void. Impossible, Krental gasped on the Seeker's bridge. Nothing can move that fast without inertial dampeners. But the Hyperion had already completed its maneuver, its smart metal hull flowing like quicksilver to absorb the massive G-forces. The human vessel's response was devastatingly simple, a spread of hypervelocity projectiles, their paths calculated by quantum computers to arrive precisely where the Seeker's defensive screens were weakest. The alien vessel's energy shields, designed to deflect and absorb exotic particles, might as well have been tissue paper against chunks of tungsten moving at appreciable fractions of light speed. The impacts were precise, surgical, disabling weapons and propulsion without risking the ship's integrity. In the Council chamber, the shared consciousness field erupted with panic as the Celestial Seeker's status reports came in. Their most advanced warship had been effectively neutralized in seconds by technology they had dismissed as primitive. How? Trelvon demanded, her crystalline form clouding with confusion. Their weapons are so simple. Simple, Vexterra replied quietly, does not mean ineffective. While we pursued elegance, they pursued efficiency. While we refined a single path to the stars, they explored every possibility. And while we assumed our way was the only way, she gestured to the image of the Hyperion, now holding position near the disabled Seeker. They proved us wrong. Captain Chen's voice came through on all frequencies, translated perfectly into the Concordat's crystalline harmonics. This is the United Earth ship Hyperion. Your weapons and propulsion have been disabled. We are standing by to render assistance and resume peaceful dialogue when you're ready to talk as equals. The message's subtext was clear. Humanity would not be underestimated again. Paradigm shift. Dr. Rashmi Patel stood in the Hyperion's conference room, watching the crystalline form of first contact specialist Nexervith examine a sample of the ship's smart metal hull. The alien scientist's multifaceted body pulsed with colors that her xenobiology training suggested indicated intense fascination. The molecular restructuring occurs without central control. Nexervith asked, his translated voice carrying tones of disbelief. How is that possible? Emergence, Paddle replied, smiling. Each molecule follows simple rules about how to react to stress and energy. The complex behavior emerges from their collective interactions. She paused, considering how to explain it in terms the alien scientist might understand. Like how your crystalline consciousness arises from the interaction of individual crystal matrices. The comparison sent ripples of surprised light through Nexervith's form. You understand our consciousness structure. We've been studying your ship's emissions patterns, Paddle explained. Your technology broadcasts your thought processes quite clearly, if you know how to look. It's fascinating. You've developed an entirely different form of computing based on crystalline resonance. Aboard the damaged Celestial Seeker, Captain Chen was having a similar conversation with High Admiral Vexterra. The alien commander's form had taken on a deep blue hue that Chen's briefing suggested indicated deep contemplation. Your weapons, Vexterra said, studying damage reports. They were not aimed to destroy. Of course not, Chen replied. We disabled your offensive capabilities with minimal structural damage. The goal was to end the conflict, not escalate it. But how did you achieve such precision? Our sensors detected no guidance systems in your projectiles. Chen smiled. The guidance systems weren't in the projectiles. Our ship's quantum computers calculated exact firing solutions accounting for your probable evasive maneuvers. The projectiles just followed the paths we set. You predicted our movements. Vexterra's form flickered with surprise, but our maneuver patterns are based on complex crystalline algorithms, which follow logical principles, Chen finished. Different logic than we're used to, but logic nonetheless. Once we understood the basic patterns, predicting variations was just a matter of processing power. In the Concordat Council chamber, the mood had shifted dramatically from hours earlier. Council Elder Zix Mar's ancient form pulsed slowly as she addressed her peers. We have made a grave error, she announced. In our certainty of the proper path of technological development, we nearly started a war with a species that could have been a valuable ally. But their technology is so primitive, Council member Trell Vaughn protested, though her harmonics carried less conviction than before. Is it? Zix Mar challenged. They have achieved results we thought impossible, using methods we never considered. Their ship's hull adapts without crystalline matrices. Their weapons achieve precision without energy guidance. Their computers process information without quantum resonance. She paused, her form throwing rainbow patterns across the chamber. Perhaps it is time to reconsider what we mean by primitive. Back on the Hyperion, Nexervith had moved from examining the hull sample to studying the ship's computer systems. Your processing architecture, he said, it's entirely binary. Just ones and zeros. At the lowest level, yes, Paddle confirmed. But the complexity comes from how we arrange those simple elements. It's like building a crystal one atom at a time, instead of growing it naturally. Inefficient, Nexervith observed, but his tone carried curiosity rather than judgment. Yet you achieve results comparable to our crystalline computers. How? Brute force, mostly, Paddle admitted with a laugh. We couldn't match your elegant solutions, so we kept refining our primitive methods until they worked just as well. Different path, same destination. In the conference room, Captain Chen and High Admiral Vexterra were reviewing the terms of a possible cooperation agreement. The alien commander's form had taken on a bright, clear tone that suggested optimism. Your people's approach to technology, Vexterra said, it is unorthodox. But perhaps that is exactly what the Concordat needs. We have become. She paused, searching for the right word. stagnant in our thinking. Chen nodded. And maybe we could benefit from your experience. Humanity's try everything until something works approach has gotten us far, but it's not always the most efficient path. A combination of approaches, Vexterra suggested. Your innovation with our refinement. Your adaptability with our stability. Exactly, Chen agreed. We've each mastered different paths to the stars. Imagine what we could achieve together. Throughout both ships, similar conversations were taking place as humans and aliens began to share their knowledge. Engineers from both species pored over technical specifications, each finding surprising elegance in the other's solutions. Scientists exchanged theories and experimental data, building bridges between their different approaches to understanding the universe. It was the beginning of a partnership that would reshape the galaxy, not through the dominance of one technological philosophy over another, but through the recognition that there were many paths to the same destination. Bridge between stars. 1 year later. Joint Research Station, Convergence. Earth Concordat Neutral Space. The massive space station hung at the intersection of human and Concordat space, its design a striking fusion of crystalline elegance and pragmatic human engineering. Like the partnership it represented, the station shouldn't have worked, but it did, brilliantly. Dr. Rashmi Patel stood before the station's main observation window, watching a demonstration that would have been impossible a year ago. The human destroyer, its smart metal hull now infused with Concordat crystalline matrices, executed a series of maneuvers alongside a Concordat vessel whose traditional crystalline structure had been reinforced with human-designed adaptive materials. Beautiful, isn't it? Captain Chen, now Admiral Chen, said, joining her at the window. The Concordat engineers said combining our technologies would be impossible. Took them 3 months to admit they were wrong. To be fair, came the harmonic tones of High Admiral Vexterra as she approached, her crystalline form now decorated with the symbols of both civilizations. We said the same thing about their suggestions. The thought of introducing chaos theory into our crystalline computing seemed heretical at first, until it improved processing efficiency by 300%, Patel noted with a smile. Turns out a little controlled chaos was exactly what your systems needed. The 3 leaders watched as the hybrid ships demonstrated their capabilities. The human vessel's hull rippled with crystalline patterns as it executed impossibly precise maneuvers, while the Concordat ship demonstrated a level of adaptability that would have been unthinkable a year ago. The Council has officially approved the joint fleet proposal, Vexterra announced. They finally accepted that the combination of our technologies creates something greater than either could achieve alone. Emergence again, Patel said. Just like the smart metals we use in our hulls, individual elements following simple rules, creating complex behaviors when they work together. Speaking of working together, Chen added, wait until they see the new defense system we've developed. Concordat energy shields synchronized with human predictive targeting. She was interrupted by a sudden alert. The station's sensors had detected something at the edge of known space. Something big. Unknown vessels, the sensor officer reported. 3. No, 5 capital ships. Configuration doesn't match any known species. The observation window automatically enhanced the distant image, showing massive ships of biological design. Neither human metal nor Concordat crystal, but something entirely different. First contact, Vexterra said, her form shifting to alert status. But this time, we're ready for something different. Chen nodded. Signal the test fleet. Let's show our new friends that the galaxy is more interesting than they might expect. As the hybrid ships moved to investigate the new arrival, Patel reflected on how much had changed in just 1 year. The Concordat had abandoned its rigid views on technological progression, while humanity had learned to appreciate the value of elegant solutions alongside their practical ones. Together, they had created technologies that neither civilization could have imagined alone. In the station's main conference room, human and Concordat representatives quickly assembled to plan their response to the new arrivals. The room itself demonstrated their partnership. human holographic displays synchronized with Concordat consciousness fields, allowing both species to access and share information in their preferred ways. "Remember when we first met?" Chen asked Vexterra as they studied the preliminary scans. "You thought we were primitives, and we thought you were stuck-up crystals who'd forgotten how to innovate. And now?" Vexterra's form sparkled with what Chen had learned to recognize as amusement. "Now we know better," Chen replied. "There's no single right path to the stars. It's the combination of different approaches that makes us stronger." As they prepared to make contact with the new arrivals, the station's hybrid systems hummed with power, human ingenuity, and Concordat elegance working in perfect harmony. The joint fleet took up formation, their combined technologies ready to demonstrate that the future belonged not to those who insisted on a single path, but to those who were willing to learn from each other. "Send the greeting package," Chen ordered. "All frequencies, all formats. Let's show them what humanity and the Concordat can achieve together." The message that beamed out to the unknown ships carried the hallmarks of both civilizations: practical and elegant, innovative and refined, sophisticated and straightforward. It was an invitation to join in the discovery that different paths could lead to the same stars, and that the greatest achievements come not from insisting on one way of doing things, but from embracing the possibility that there might always be another way. As the unknown ships began their approach, Chen, Vexterra, and Paddle stood together at the observation window. They represented not just their own species anymore, but a new way of thinking about civilization and progress. Whatever these new arrivals brought with them, they would face it not as humans or a Concordat, but as partners who had learned that the strongest bridges between stars were built by those willing to learn from each other. The future was approaching, and for the first time in either civilization's history, they were truly ready for anything.